What's up, everybody? This is the very first Texas Handmade Podcast, and I got my good friend. We go way back. He's from North Kakalaki,
Oh,
CJ
thank you.
Locklear. So, tell me a little bit about CJ. Tell us a little bit about CJ.
Oh, wow. CJ before Window and CJ or
I
just CJ
mean,
now?
wherever you want to start. I mean,
We'll
I pretty
start there.
much know both of them. So,
You do. You mentioned I'm from North Kakalaki, so yeah, grew up in North Carolina. Spent most of my life small town, small farming community in North Carolina, and made my way out to Texas after I joined the Army back in 1992. And so the Army took me and my wife to Texas, and then spent some years in the military. And her work took us to Houston, which is wasn't long after that when I ran into you back around, I guess, 2000 or somewhere in there.
slinging that drywall.
So, slinging that drywall. So yeah, I grew up slinging drywall with my dad, and you know, took a took my hand at being a mechanic in the Army, and got out, did that for a while, went to school for a while, and decided to get back into construction again. That's where I bumped into you, and we started our relationship. But did that for a number of years, went back to school back in 2003, went to school for drafting, got into the engineering, and so I've spent the last 18 years working for a city outside of Houston, Texas, working in the engineering department, back in construction, but civil construction.
Sleeping under trees.
Uh,
Taking naps in the city. Anytime you see a city truck sleeps four, right?
Well, it's only occupied by one most of the time in the radio, but I definitely spend a lot of time in the field on our construction projects, and it can be hot down here in Texas. I mean, this summer we've had a blazer, so I definitely were looking for trees for shade, but not sleeping.
Yeah, I've been hearing how hot it was, obviously through you, Dave, Drew. When I talk to Drew, he will tell me it's been just cooking down there. No rain, everything's dried up. I've seen some pictures of the lakes are pretty low, like some of like Livingston's real low.
Yeah, I hadn't really spent any time, we hadn't done a whole lot of traveling this summer, but even just your neighborhood detention ponds and whatnot, yeah, they're pretty dried up. I mean, it's pretty dry in our neck of the woods. We actually got cloud cover. That's why it's a little darker right now than it has been. We got some rain today here in the Houston area, but yeah, it's been a doozy. Back in 2011, we had that big drought, sort of similar to that, but that's Texas. It's hot in the summer and hot most of the year, and we get a couple weeks of cold weather.
Yeah, I have to tell these Colorado folk, they'll start talking about it being hot, and I'm like, it ain't hot. It'd be 80 degrees, and they're talking about how hot it is, and I'm like, which it does. I have to say, when I'm out in it, and especially out hunting, like recently been out hunting, and you're out in the sun and you can't find shade. I don't know if it's because you're closer to the sun, maybe, but it feels hot. But when you get in the shade, the difference is in Texas, if you're in the sun and you step in the shade, you might get a degree or two difference. Here, you might feel 10 or 15 degrees difference by stepping in the shade. So it makes a difference here where it doesn't do much of a difference here in Texas. But before we get too far off the path, I wanted to, you're also got a Native American background, correct?
I do. Like I said, I'm from North Carolina, and my father's from a tribe from North Carolina, and we're the biggest tribe east of the Mississippi. Probably have around 60,000 enrolled in the Lumbee Indian tribe. Most of the folks from my tribe is from the southeast part of North Carolina, but all throughout the East Coast there now. And even folks like me who've moved out west and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's like I said, my mom's, she's your standard white lady that married an Indian guy from the Indian tribe, like I said, from North Carolina, Lumbee Indians. Yeah. Got my Lumbee hat on here tonight too.
You should get your, also speaking of Lumbee, you should get your bow rack tomorrow. I think they said it'd be there
awesome.
Friday. And then you're the guinea pig, so you'll need to log on to go to the YouTube page, and I have an instructional video on there how to put it together. But I got faith in you. You come from you're a handyman, so if I was sending to Dave, I'd be a little worried, but I'm not too worried about you.
You know, I've been known to put a few things together without the instructions, and so since I spent a little bit of time, I got a few tools in the building out there. I'll probably got a few of your tools out there too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know, you do awesome work. You know, everything you put your hands on turns into something nice, and so I'm glad to be part of the beginning of this and get one of these awesome bow racks. Now I see you got the double behind you, but
yeah, so that's actually. This one's kind of the ghetto rack now, not even because that's the very first, that's the protege. That's the very first one ever made, which I made for myself as a, hey, that looks, I'm going to see if I can make that. And there it is. And so now that I've started making some of these other ones, they're a lot more ornate, and mine's pretty, it's just got a little Texas star and it says Texas down there. Mine's pretty basic now compared to all the rest of them. So I may have to get an upgrade for myself. And then I got, of course, the whiskey dispenser back there. Those, I probably sold more of those than I have the bow racks. And then you remember that little buck up there above there? That's that Lano buck. So the tines all broke off.
Did they?
Remember how long were they broken? That was that 8-point that had the real long tines. So the cat, I used to have it on a stand that sit on the desk. And the cat knocked it off and busted all the tines off the top.
Well, I was thinking maybe you had snuck one from the deer lease that we didn't know about.
That's the same one. He just got all his tines are broke off, so he's looking a little raggedy up there.
You're gonna have to change his story on that one a little bit. He was a fighter.
He was. Oh yeah, that's right. He broke them all off. You've been hanging around Dave too long. He broke them all off in a fight. But since we got on the, subject of hunting, that's another thing that we go way back. I was actually driving home today thinking about doing this podcast, and I don't think we could have done it without talking about Singleton. Give us a little rundown of our sleeping quarters at Singleton.
Oh, wow. You're going to go there. Okay. Yeah. So, of course, so like I said, that was probably I don't know, maybe it was before 2000. It's been a long time. So we were young in our
20 years.
Experience, at least 20 years. And so everybody's got to start at the bottom. And so I was on a lease in Singleton, which is, it's probably about an hour and 20 minutes north of Houston, hour and 30 minutes, small little place that I think we had a total about 150 acres, but really we were hunting about 50 acres. Yeah. But, and our sleeping quarters was, I don't know if it was the owner's home or the help's home, but you basically could see through the walls. You definitely could hear the coons crawling around upstairs at night.
The rats running across the beds.
Nah, those weren't rats. Those are big coons.
I remember coming out there with you. Of course, you let me come out there, and then I think the next year, I ended up getting on there. I think we paid $150 a year to be $200 maybe. I
don't think it was 200. Yeah, probably about 150, 160 somewhere in there. But for us back then,
big bucks.
We were splurging.
Yeah. Hey, we had the best time you could have out there, though. We were there. I mean, to us, we were on the King Ranch.
We were, since then, Wendell, I've done a lot of hunting since then, been to a lot of different places. It got a lot of kills, and that's right up there at the top of some of my best hunting. I mean, all that time and effort, putting in back then, kind of prepares you for where you're at today. But man, those were good times. Well, small place, but
there was a lot learned on that. Mm-hmm. Like in that time frame, there was a lot learned, and some really good stories that come from there. Like I remember you telling me, Tell us about when you took Anna out there and you could see
Oh,
the headlight.
yeah, that's one of my all-time favorites, sitting around telling people about my hunt stories. So yeah, I got 3 boys, and at that time my boys were probably 2, 4, and 6 or 7, 8 maybe. Seth could barely drag a 6 millimeter through the woods, and so I'd went over the hill with me and Seth hunting, and it's getting picture perfect. The sun's going down, and you know what goes through your head. There's the biggest 8-pointer coming across the field in the woods in my mind, but I keep seeing this slide on the wood line make this circle about every 10 minutes. And I thought to myself, what is going on out here? So I keep seeing and I keep seeing it. And finally the hunt's over. Of course, we ain't seen anything. And we're walking back to camp, and I look out in the field, and it's Anna with the 2 youngest ones in the truck driving in circles so they could stay warm. And I'd given her a fire in the fireplace, but we were young, and 3 kids, and so fire went out, but she was smart enough to know how to keep them warm.
Hey, she was out there though. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? You got her out there. It's amazing that you talked her into sleeping in that house, because I
Yeah,
slept in some pretty bad places before, but that was in the top. That made the top 10. It may not be number 1, because I think our Trinity quarters might have been a little worse for a little bit, but I think one of my favorite personal stories comes from Singleton too. And I'm not going to say his name on here. Remember the hog hunter buddy?
Oh, yeah.
I brought out there. I'm not going to say his name because he might accidentally listen to this and he'll probably get butthurt. But I remember being at work, and he's always been a tough guy. He was a pretty big boy. He's probably 6'6", 6'7", probably walked around 260, 270. I mean, big corn-fed boy, big Texas corn-fed boy. And he begged me and begged me and begged me to take him out there. He wanted to go shoot a hog. So I told him, all right, we'll go out there. I don't remember. I think it was a Saturday. We were just going to go out there for the evening hunt and then come back. So we drive out there, and I put him in that one metal, the one metal box blind on the fence line where we usually saw the most hogs.
Right.
And I said, just stay in here. And you remember that fence line, that box blind kind of sit on that fence line, and you could see back to the left and the right was the fence line. It was right up against the fence line. And I told him, I said, keep looking to your left, because those hogs generally come right out. They come foul. I said, when they come out, they're going to come out in 10 or 20 of them. They're just going to start coming out. And so I walked down to that first cut, and I was going to go hunt that next, you'd walk down the fence line, then you turn back to the
right in the middle
and then you go in there and get in that one stand, because that was pretty close to him. And I just said, just sit in here till dark, and then I'll come out and get you, and we'll go out to the truck. So I get over there, same thing you said, it's evening hunt. I'm sitting in the stand. It's just now things are getting quiet. The crickets are getting louder. The birds are quietening down. Everything is, you're waiting, because he's fixing to walk out any minute, or she. I'd have shot, back then we'd have shot anything they'd fit in the freezer. And I hear boom. It's like, it definitely was a miss. And I was like, oh, he must have shot at something. And then not too long after that, I hear a boom. And I was like, what the hell is he shooting at over there? Maybe he's got 2 down, maybe he shot 2 pigs. And we still got another 45 minutes till dark, and most of the time we're going to sit in there and walk out with a headlight. So I'm sitting there, and I start hearing the truck horn honk. What's honking? Like somebody's down there honking back at camp. So I get out and I walk by to go get him. He's not in the stand. I hear I hear the truck. I was like, he must have walked back to the truck. He must be honking to tell me he shot something,
Yeah, come help me clean it, find it.
So I get back to the truck, and he's leaning up against the truck, and I was like, where's it at? And he's like, let's go. And I was like, what do you mean let's go? I said, what'd you shoot at? He goes, let's just go. I didn't shoot any. I was like, well, I heard you shoot twice. He goes, I shot at them pigs, but I missed. I was like, are you sure you missed? Because I mean, you might have hit him. I was like, and he's acting, super weird, super sketchy. And I was like, well, let's go look for it. He's like, man, let's just go. And I was like, well, what happened? He goes, I don't want to talk about it, man. Let's just go. So I keep messing with him. He's like, all right, man. Well, I'm gonna tell you, but you better not. Don't be laughing at me, man. He's like, so I'm sitting there and I start hearing them pigs. And I was like, well, yeah, I told you they're gonna come from, right over there. So I got out of the stand. He said I started walking down the fence line. He said it sounded like they were fighting back, like they were just getting after each other. He said, so and the next thing I know, it's coming out of the fence straight, like this thing's running straight at me. He's like, so I didn't even aim. I just pointed the gun and shot.
Shot from the hip.
You didn't aim. He said, so then I took off running. And I said, you took off running? He said, yeah. And then he said, I heard him again. So I just slung around and shot at him again and then ran back to the truck. And of course, I start fucking laughing. I'm crying, like I'm literally crying. I'm laughing so hard. And he's getting madder and madder. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I can't help it. Like, why are you running? You have a gun. And he didn't talk to me the whole way home, but that's probably one of my favorite stories. It's a messed up story, but it kind of brought him back down. Like the tough guy persona was kind of gone for a little bit,
Right. Yeah, you take them out there in them woods, boy, you can run into all kind of stuff, which is why we enjoy it, right? So
yeah.
You never know what you're gonna hear.
When it gets dark, them boogers start coming out.
That mind starts to wandering.
I mean,
noises you never heard.
Me and you've, we've hunted a lot. We've spent a lot of times together in the woods, and we've had conversations. And I know we've both not been too proud to say that we've ran out of some woods before, especially when we start. Obviously, I've never seen a cat. I've heard horror stories. You had an experience in Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty sure you had a cat messing around in there.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your cat scare.
Oh yeah. So I'm in Trinity. So this is the second deer lease we're on together.
Yep.
And so me and you, being a little different than the rest of the hunters, we tried to bow hunt a lot. We did a lot of hunting. So we're out there, a lot of work, a lot of setting up stands and just trying to learn and gain skills. And this time I was there by myself, and I had a lock-on stand on a cut down. The pines are behind me. Because that's a paper mill lease that we were on, and they had cut this one area, and the trees were, probably 6 or 8 feet tall, maybe 2 years old or something like that. And so us, we park and walk a half a mile to get to the stand. Then we try to stay till it's dark. And then we got to get back to our ride. And so I'm in that lock-on stand. And, like I said, I've heard a lot of stuff. I've seen stuff that I didn't know what it was. So I'm sitting there, and again, it's always right at prime dusk, when the big one's going to come out. And I can see the area where my four-wheeler is, as the crow flies, is probably 500-600 yards. But, it's a good 15-minute walk to get back through there. But man,
this too, just so everybody knows, this is paper mill country. So this is thick ass pine trees, sticker bushes, like some of this stuff you can't walk through. This is like basically all paper mill company. So it's it ain't like you just can walk through the woods if you're not in a pathway.
Right. So I know I got to go down the trail to get there. And it's a long walk, but that's what we sign up for. That's why us tough guys can do that. And I'm sitting there and I hear this, and I'm like, what in the... And the longer and I didn't know what it was. I still don't know what it was. We're not in elk country, but we do have cats, and you hear people talk about, panthers.
I think I had actually told you a story not too long before you had this experience about Jeff finding that deer with the
Yeah,
leaves pulled up on that deer in a perfect circle and the quarter eating out. I think that I'm
it
not
was
trying to,
definitely
I
around.
want to add to the story.
Yeah, it was definitely around that time because Jeff, your boss, old boss, was hunting not too far down the road from us, so we shared stories all the time, and I'm sure it was in the same time frame. But the longer I sit there, to be, you know what, I ended my hunt early. So I come out of that tree and I never got back to that four-wheeler so fast in my I really, because I didn't know what it was, but I'd never heard a sound like that in the woods. Still don't know what it was, some
Yeah.
kind of cat.
Yeah. There's been, I mean, man, you just never know. I mean, we always sit around and you'd say, oh, there ain't nothing. This ain't here. This ain't there. But then you get out there by yourself and, like you said, and I mean, it's nothing compared to what I'm getting myself into now, but we were definitely different than anybody else that hunted those leases around us because we were, most of those boys, it was the beer lease. They wanted to drive their truck, Little John, drive his truck under the stand and just climb out in the stand. Uh,
I,
we were trying to keep as much noise and, we were trying to do everything right.
yeah, I
Scent,
remember.
trying to control our scent.
I had one time walking to the stand again with a headlight on, and the brush was a little thick. This is on the back fence line back there. After I'd been there a while, and I run up on no, it's a possum with two babies in the brush. I like to lit them up.
Yeah. Well, the loudest animal in the woods is an armadillo. If you ain't never heard an armadillo coming through the woods, it sounds like an elephant. Like it,
Sounds like an elephant.
dude, you think trees are getting knocked down when that sucker comes through there. Like I guess because his nose is he's just rutting his way through there. But I heard, I've heard a couple of those things, and you're like, what in the world is coming? Like you're getting all blood pressure, your heart starts thumping, you're getting all pumped up, and then you look down and it's a little armadillo down there.
Or a turtle.
I had I remember one experience getting the shit scared out of me, walking into, of course I had that blind we called Drew's blind. It was the blind that faced down the roadway. But I had that lock on stand that I think there for a while was probably in my opinion, was one of the best spots because it was down in those heavy oak trees, which there wasn't a lot of oak trees on that property. Beautiful area. And
That's
it
where
was
we got the picture of that huge buck, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I'd park my golf cart, that old raggedy ass golf cart I had. I'd park it at the very end of the road going into Drew's blind. So I'd have to walk all the way down that cut and then turn and then go off into the woods. And again, they were more open woods there, but it's not like I had a trail that I was walking. So I got I didn't even have a headlight back then. I had one of those little mag flashlights that takes 2 batteries. And I had a whole bag of corn on my shoulders because I was going to spread some corn before I got up there. And I got the mag flashlight sitting on top of the corn. I got my bow the other side, backpack on, and I'm trampling in there. I think it was I was trying to get in there like 2 hours before. That's another thing we'd do dumb back there. Like we'd get in the stand 2 hours before the sun would come up. So I walk in there and I get right up in the middle of it and I can hear hogs. I'm in the middle of hogs. Like I can hear hogs all around me. I can't see shit. My flash, I probably should have changed the batteries 3 trips ago. So I could literally just see the ground maybe in front of me. So I dropped that corn and I'm like, trying to think exactly where my stand was at because I was just going to go get up from my stand. But as I stood there, I realized they weren't even paying me any attention like that. I was like, they're not even paying me. They're just, you can hear them getting acorns, just rooting around and they're getting acorns. So I figure out where my tree is, lean my bow up, the corn, go back to the corn. The whole time these pigs they're just still shuffling around in there. Tear the bag of corn open, start slinging corn, and it's pitch black. And I hear these pigs start crunching the corn that I'm literally throwing out right now. So I'm thinking in my head, dude, this is going to be the best hunt ever. I'm going to climb up here. I'm going to whack about 3 of these pigs, I get up in there, get situated, and as the sun's barely starting, I can see them down there, just little black figures moving around down there. And my heart's starting to pump up because I back then, even still, I get as much enjoyment out of shooting pigs as I do anything else.
It is.
So I'm getting jacked up, and it starts getting lighter and lighter, and I can hear they're getting further and further and further and further. And then by the time it's day, I can't see. There's none of. They're gone. So maybe I got outsmarted and they knew like this fool is going to feed us and then climb up in that tree and we're going to eat till daylight and we're going to get the hell out of here. But that was probably, that might have been, I wouldn't say scared, but that might have been as uneasy as I've ever been in the woods. Cause I didn't carry a sidearm back then. I had a bow.
Right.
It would have done me no good.
You had a bag of corn, a light, and a bow. I got a Singleton story about the same way. I don't remember if I'm sure I told you over the years, the same thing, pretty much, but mine started the day before. So again, I'm in Singleton, hunting right there behind camp. And I'd patterned this buck. I'm super excited. Had actually seen him go in there the evening before. And I climb up an oak tree that's fairly slim. And but I get pretty good ways up there, and then I decide I'm going to adjust the chain for the bottom part of it. It's a climber, right?
The two-piece climber.
The two-piece climber, right? So I get the bright idea, 15, 17 feet in the air. I'm gonna adjust it while I'm up there because the tree got slim on me, right? So I'm at an angle, not a good hunting position. Bad idea. Guess who dropped the pin? So I'm in this tree, like I said, 15, 17 feet high. I got to shimmy down this tree so I can get to the ground and try to get things back together. Well, I couldn't find the pin, so kind of ruined the hunt that evening. I still got half my climber up in the tree, right? So go back to camp, spend the night by myself. So same thing. I'm out there with my bow. I got a ladder because I had another pin or made a makeshift pin or something. So I'm going to go back again, like you said, 2 hours early. It's pitch black. I got a ladder in a hand. I got the bottom part of the stand, and I got my bow. And I get about 20 yards in the high brush, and same thing. Pigs just scatter. And I'm like, what am I going to do here with the bow? So I opened up the stand and stood on about the second step and shoot them away till I could get over there and get up in the tree. So I've had some of those scary moments too. That one, they startled me, quite a bit. Again, with the bow, you think, what is these hogs going? If they're little, not likely to bother you a whole lot, but you run up on a big boar.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah,
Not
big
cool.
boar will, like a lot of people, you don't want to underestimate one of those things, because especially if they got some good tusk on them, they will dice you up a little bit if they have to. I've never had one happen, but I've seen some people's dogs get pretty tore up when they're running those dogs on them.
Yeah.
Back then, of course, we on Trinity, when we were on Trinity, a lot of those boys would come out during the off season and run those dogs. Well, we think during the off season, but that was a wild lease, man. I think the saddest part about that lease was the potential was like from the time that we got on there to the time that we got off. It's hard to believe with just a handful of people with the right mindset it can do to a place, because we were seeing, the bucks were completely like, we were seeing some nice bucks there toward the end.
Yeah.
It kind of all got.
You and I got to experience what it's like to change the mindset and add to the whole hunting experience by being on a lease where you have certain rules and regulations, and then you start implementing those things, being more patient, being more selective, and see what a change it can have for a hunting area. And we didn't get to have a whole lot of impact with like being able to do like real food plots and some of the bigger stuff. We did. We definitely
Man, we
tried.
tried. I
But
think we
you
also,
could,
it was kind of cool seeing how much we changed within the second or third year, the work, like other people, like they were seeing how much, like, cause we would spend, I mean, we'd go on 3-day weekends multiple times when it's out of season and just work, just cut lanes.
work. This.
Man, whose tractor was that? I remember I got that old tractor from my in-laws back then. Like they gave me that old.
Oh yeah, the John Deere.
Yeah,
Was it? Yeah,
no, it was. I
John
think
Deere.
it was a Ford. Or no, you're right. I think it was a John Deere.
I think it was
It
a
was like a
John Deere.
1923
It
freaking.
was an old one. It
I
was an
remember
old.
hauling that thing down there with my Ford F-150,
I
which
forgot about that. That
which
was a big tractor.
it was not capable. It shouldn't have been hauling that tractor. And we had that raggedy old disc, and
We
but
had
man,
somebody had to stand
dude,
on it.
we were again the King Ranch. You know, we were on the King Ranch down there making it, but because I remember that's the year we disked that back corner
That back
fence. We disked the shit out of that thing, man. And then we disked Drew like that whole other lane. And we tried planting all those food plots. I think that's that one year it actually yours came up pretty good, I think, from
It
what I
did,
remember.
yeah. Yeah, we were able to get somewhere. Like I said, I'm talking about, we didn't get to do like what you see the big boys do, but for us, you
We
and
didn't have
I,
the
we
money.
might, right. We were doing it on a very minimal budget. Like I said, we had more strength and muscle than brains and money, and so we worked hard. And
Yeah.
we got as much satisfaction out of that and learned so much. And yeah, when I look back on that, I mean, I really enjoyed all that, and still have fond memories of it. And and would
Well,
do
I
it
think
again.
that lease will probably be dear to us both because I'll like Drew shot his first deer there. Your
Yeah.
boys shot their first deer. Like there was a
Okay.
lot of firsts there, and it was I mean, regardless of the situation, it was a really good family lease. Like you could go down there with the family and you could hang out and
Yeah.
there was a lot of drinking that went on. Obviously, a lot of the guys were heavy and it's the lease manager was the main one. I'll never
Beer.
the beer lease. I'll never forget. I don't remember which season it was like my second, I think it was either the first or the second season that I had the spot we called Drew Stand. And we were seeing a lot. Remember the cameras where we were having some nice bucks coming in there. The preseason, I was filming some nice deer. Like so, I was pumped for opening day, like pumped for opening day rifle season because I was like, I mean, it's gonna be awesome. And I remember getting over there, getting in my stand early in the morning, sitting there, and it just as it's getting, I hear this 4-wheeler. It's getting closer and closer, and I was like, surely I'm thinking in my head, somebody got sick, and they're headed back to camp, like they got sick or they're hungover, they can't say it. So it's getting closer, closer, and I'm like, well, that damn thing, it's coming down that because I had the main road, and then there was that old 4-wheeler trail that you could come in through the back.
Up against the wood line.
Up against the wood line. And I'm
The main wood line.
And sure enough, here comes this 4-wheeler, pops out, turns, and I don't remember who was driving, but James Allen was on the back. Our lease manager that's running the whole show is on the back at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, prime time hunting, beer in hand from the night before. And I hear distinctively, and I can remember it was like it was yesterday, oh shit, he's in his stand. No shit, he's in his stand. It's opening morning, man. Where else would he be? But I remember getting back to camp, and of course I was pissed. I was bowling, go in there, I change clothes like I always did, walk over by the fire, and everybody's telling what they seen. And I think it might have been you said, "What did you see anything?" And I said, 2 fucking dumbasses on a 4-wheeler. And James was like, man, I'm sorry about that. And I was like, what were you doing, man? Like it's opening morning.
Yeah, well, for some of those fellas, every day was opening morning.
I'm assuming they were road hunting, is I guess what they were doing. They were just going to ride around and see if they could see something and shoot it.
I don't know.
Remember James would always volunteer. You can hunt my stand anytime you want.
Oh yeah, and I did.
If you could get in it and see out it.
Well, you couldn't see out of it. He had saplings that were 5 years old in front of the window. But, overall, like you said, we got a lot of good, hunting out of that.
Well,
I enjoyed
James's
it.
hunting spot was to sit on the road in his truck and look at your pipeline feeder. That was his
Your
hunting.
feeder.
That was his hunting spot.
I can't
No,
be
it was
fed for
good.
it.
That was that'll always be one of the deer leases that's probably gonna always have a special place in my heart there, just because we learned a lot in Singleton, but we learned like night and day. That's when we both really started getting into archery too. Like that's when we both started really bow hunting.
Remember
And
that
kind of
one?
fell in love with bow hunting more than, I wouldn't say more than rifle hunting, but at that time, if either one of us had a choice, we was going to get in a tree stand probably over a box stand. And I'm kind of still that way. Like obviously the rifle helps fill the freezer a little better than the bow. But I'm kind of I still prefer, if I have a choice, I'd rather pick up a bow. And then we had a little break for a while, and you were Llano, and then I ended up out there in Llano with you, which was a whole nother world. That was like, it's like every time we stepped up, we were,
Well, Texas offers a lot of different hunting,
yeah.
When people say, "Oh man, you hunt in Texas," I'm like, "Yeah." They ask questions about hunting, coming out hunting. Like, well, what kind do you want to hunt? The piney woods of Texas? You want to hunt West Texas? You want to hunt the hill country? You want to hunt South Texas?
Yep.
It's all different.
Yep. And there's a lot of difference in body size. Like South Texas deer are way bigger than hill country. We were in hill country in Llano. Those are little bitty bodies.
Right.
But they can have some big racks, but I mean, I think a big buck is what, 150 pounds? You kill a 150-pound buck, you killed a pretty big buck.
Yeah, definitely out
And
there.
that's on the hoof, like, because I think our doe contest I think I won that one year with like a 96-pound doe.
90-some pounds, not even 100 pounds.
Yeah.
They didn't weigh a lot, but there were a bunch of them.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Llano. The Llano provided you with a lot of opportunity to see a lot of movement. That's where I learned a lot about deer. And my first buck that I rattled in and shot was in Llano. Another pretty awesome experience. But you can't do that in East Texas. They too much
you can't.
wood,
Hill country.
too big.
If you blink, you missed them. Yeah, if you blink, they're gone.
Right. Hill country, it's open, rolling terrain, and so just a whole totally different experience. But how many years were you on that one?
I think 2 or 3, and then I stayed after that final. And then I stayed after they ended up building a house on the property and cutting it down to just 100 acres. I think I stayed a season, then me and Little John stayed out there. It was just me and Little John. He wasn't there before. It was just me, you, and Dave, and Tina.
Pretty much.
And Dave, Dave's the one that, of course, Dave, I'm gonna have to get him on here too. But obviously me and Dave go back to like, I think we were 12 or 13 when we met. I feel like me and you met. I feel like it's the same because we may not have met. We may have met later, but I think there's a lot more quality time spent in between there. A lot of time in the woods and a lot of time. We're both like-minded, so we hit it off right off the bat. And we're hillbillies.
Yeah.
Hillbillies kind of stick together. But Dave kind of,
we're cut from the same ball.
He kind of ruined me on because we were always like, come back to camp, take your clothes off, hang them in the trees, spray them down, like don't go by the fire. Like we did all that stuff.
That's what you had to do in Trinity.
And then Dave, what are you doing that for? Like, dude. And he's probably the luckiest human being because he don't do any of that.
None of it, right?
Half the time he's lucky if he's got ammunition with him when he gets to the stand.
Stand in the fire.
But he probably tells the best hunting stories. He's very good at getting animated when he was telling his hunting stories.
Well, that's the beauty of hunting with somebody like Dave is he fully enjoys the experience and every
Yeah.
experience, and you can appreciate that, So I do. There were times, I tell a number of stories where I was by myself, and I used to like to hunt by myself most of the time, and still do from time to time. But Dave was somebody that he made me learn to enjoy hunting with somebody and experience the full, kill and the whole experience with them,
Well, yeah, if you
So,
weren't there, if you're not with Dave, you know what's going on. And then if you're there and he's not there, he's texting you like, "Hey, what the hell?
killing you, blowing
What are
you
seeing?
up."
Like, what are you not anything?"
Yeah, you got that right. He wants to step by step. He wants to be hunting with you.
Yeah, he wants
Which I can
videos,
appreciate
pictures.
that.
Like you ain't got no videos, you ain't got no pictures. Uh, but yeah, Lano was probably like for us
Yeah,
as a group, that was the probably as good as it gets. I mean, we had our campers down there. We were sleeping in camper, I mean, it was the wives were usually with us all the time. So it was more of a family ordeal. Like I say family, but it was usually us as a group going down
yeah,
there, having some cold beers, cooking over the fire,
yeah.
hunting, going into town. Well, Dave likes to go into town a lot, but
Yeah, yeah.
that was a good experience and then you were on that high fence thing for a while, which you got that was very
Yeah.
rewarding. You got a double drop time off that, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that was interesting. Things just kind of it did sort of roll over from the Lano lease, like you said. The property owners ended up wanting to build a home on the place, so we lost that setup that we had there. And I think the last year or two, I was invited to do a hunt in South Texas on a high fence ranch, and so I was fortunate enough to be able to do this hunt. And the owner, well, the ranch boss had two bucks, and one of them was a double drop tine, and one was we call bullwinkle. We estimated he was probably 27 inches wide or something like that. Just a mainframe 10, but just looked like bullwinkle. And so, yeah, we went down there. And again, for anybody who hadn't hunted high fence, it's a little different. Yep. It's you can make it challenging or it can be awfully easy sometimes. But this particular hunt, I was definitely going after one particular deer. And so not even 10 minutes after being at the lease, me and the ranch boss, and again, my wife was with me. So we drive around and we run into bullwinkle just laying in the sendero right there at noon. Literally biggest deer I ever seen in my life, 60 yards from me. And I thought, I've got to see that double drop time because this guy ain't going nowhere. We're in a high fence ranch.
Right.
And so it took us about a day and a half to run across them because they were in the rut. And again, Anna and I are riding around at noon, and on the back 40 on this ranch, I ran across them all the way at the end of the sendero. And the minute I saw this double drop tine, I was like, yep, that's the one I need. I got to have that one. Dave calls it the unicorn of whitetail. So, again, going back to me and you bow hunting in Trinity, trying to make sure we don't step on a twig and we go an hour and a half early. I run back to camp at 12:30, tell ranch boss, hey, I found the buck that I want. Let's go get on him. So not that we were going to do a stalk on him, but he said, I said, I got an idea. I think this will work. Out here in Texas, we feed them with corn quite a bit. They get used to that corn feeder, right? So I get set up. We're out there setting up a pop-up stand, and he's just carrying on and being loud. I'm like, hey, he's right over there. We need to keep it down. We need to keep it down. He's in town talking to his best buddy. He's just being all loud, hammering, hitting the stakes in. And I'm like, I am never going to kill this deer. So I'm trying to do everything I can. So I finally get him out of there. So I corned the sendero, and I got Anna with me. So I got 2 chairs set up, got my rifle in there. He's got a shooting stick that's got duct tape on it.
Something
So
about those lease managers,
well, it's hard to shoot with a beer in the hand and duct tape, a monopod, I think, yeah, a single shooting stick. But anyway, I'm trying to get it all set up, and there's this buck called we called him Grandpa. He's just an old, huge, about a 155-inch 10-pointer that hung around camp with all the does. Literally, we'd feed around camp 30 yards. Here's a 150-inch buck, like you ain't even standing there. So he comes following because he heard the feeder go off. So here he comes. He's 5 yards from us. He makes his way through, and then after I'm still trying to get set up, and I hand my video camera on. I'm like, here, you video this. She ain't never videoed for me, nothing. But I'm like, I got to get this on film if this happens. And so sure enough, he pops out. He's chasing the doe. He's hot on the doe. I'm still trying to adjust the stick. I'm holding it when he comes out. And if you ever watch the video, I don't know if I've shown you the video or not.
I think I have seen it. It's shaking a little bit.
Oh, man, and she looked like an alcoholic and hadn't had a drink in 2 days. It's all over the place, like she's having DTs. But she got the shot, she got the kill, and so yeah, that's again, Wendell, my experience is going from Singleton, to the High Fence Ranch, where, my first 8-pointer, if you're going off of scores, might have scored 100. And
Yeah.
this buck here, 8 mainframe 8 double drop tine, I think he scored about a 154. So been pretty fortunate, man,
Yeah.
over the years. God bless me.
Yeah, I think my first eight, which is probably that one I shot in Llano, was probably 100, probably
Yeah,
100, maybe 105, something like that.
Yeah, it's about the same size.
You had some long tines. The first buck I ever shot, I'd shot a bunch of does up until then, was probably in Del Rio. Yeah. And I shot 3 times
I was
at
there
that
for
deer.
that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember shooting that, and this just tells, and man, Del Rio too, man, that was a long time ago too, when Dave and Charlie had that property in Del Rio.
Yeah, well, that's the first time I met Dave, is when you got him to
come out
let me
to
go hunting.
yeah, he came out to Trinity, I think.
Well, but the first time I met Dave was, you and I were working together, and he had invited you to hunt in Del Rio, and I went on that hunt with y'all. That's the first time I met
you. Were you there when I shot that buck?
Yeah, I was there.
I remember to this day, because I took, back then, again, this is still when we were pouring it days, like we didn't have any, even Dave, like Charlie ended up buying that property, which was a surprise. Dave, it just out of the military, he didn't have none of us had any money. We were sleeping in an old raggedy pop-up tent out there, no power, no generator. just just sleeping on, I think
one step above the rocks.
Yeah, it was just, all it did was get us off the ground.
Exactly.
If it rained real hard, we were getting wet.
I had a pop-up in Trinity too, like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trinity, that Trinity pop-up. I remember when me and you went in halves and bought that little metal building, which wasn't beautiful, but man, we thought that was like, we were high on the hog when we bought that building. We're going to be able to bring the wives up here now. They're going to want to sleep up here. Of course, when they show up and see it, they weren't as enthused as we were.
Why do they have a different view of it than we do?
I don't know. But
I thought we were doing good.
But yeah, I remember shooting at that deer. It took me 3 shots to get that deer. The first time I shot at that deer, it didn't even move. It didn't even pick his head up from eating.
Hey, well, you gave him a warning shot.
And and so first thing in my mind is like, because I remember I took my dad's gun, because I don't think I had a gun then. I think I just borrowed my dad's rifle. And second shot, he got a little buck and he kind of hobbled off, and then I think I may only had 2 bullets because I had to shoot him with Dave's gun. When we found him, I shot him in the neck with Dave's gun, and then so the first thing I do, go back to camp. We took that piece of 2 foot by 2 foot piece of plywood, and I remember screwing a Pringles lid to it and walking out 100 yards, leaning against the camper because I'm like, this gun's off. And I'd be damned if I didn't almost hit the screw in the middle of the Pringles hole can. So it didn't have anything to do with that gun. It
don't most of the time.
The first time you look at a buck through a scope, it's a weird, it's a different feeling.
Yeah, it sure is. I've wanted to blame mine a few times, but I don't even go take the practice shot.
We used to. I think in Llano there for a while, we would give you hell because it was like a minigun went off in that deer. Like you get in CJ's stand, and there's shells all over the place in there.
Hey, the animals like coming to my feeder, and so I got a lot of opportunity.
And then I want to kind of jump to, so of course I moved. I've been out here in Colorado 2 years now. Exactly, like this month makes 2 years I've been in Colorado. So.
Oh, you did, right?
And then so last year, obviously we did our first. You and Dave, we planned out was it third season? We did third season rifle. Third season rifle. We unit 38 up in the hills a little bit. I remember going out. I set up the tent a week before y'all got here. You drove down. Dave flew in, and it fucking snowed the whole time.
It did.
What was your? I'll tell you mine. But what was your thoughts on your very first mountain hunt in Colorado in the snow? No feeders, all walking, all work.
Well, it started out one way and ended a different way. Like you said, I drove up. I don't remember what our actual hunting day started. Was it Saturday?
I got there Saturday because you came up a day before, and me and you drove up. Because I think Friday we drove up, and then Saturday or Sunday we had to come down and get Dave. So we had a couple of days ahead of Dave.
Right. So I got in there Thursday around 3:30, and there wasn't that much snow. And when I say got into town, not going up the mountainside.
Got to my house.
Yeah. And of course it's beautiful. I'm pumped, and it's my first time, and not knowing what to expect, but what the possibilities were. It is high elevation. You are in Colorado. It is mid-November, third rifle season.
Yeah.
But
I think we were about 10,500, 11,000 feet. I think we were hunting somewhere around there, 11,000.
Right. And so met you there on lower elevation, and we drove up, and of course it's beautiful, and I'm excited. I really am. It's a good experience to get to just spend that much time, just the three of us, considering how far we go back and hunting and just being friends and that sort of stuff. And on top of that, getting to hunt a new animal, a new environment, just everything new, different than what any of us has really done. And you do some scouting and looking, and not really seeing a whole lot of action, but some tracks and some possibilities.
I will say the only positive thing about the snow is you can tell when something's been through there.
Right. So you had already done some pre-scouting, so we had some ideas and some things that we're going to do. And so it started out good. It started out good.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we seen those moose the first day we went out, didn't we?
um, it was
But we
early
couldn't get
on.
to our original. I do remember I
It
had
was
to go to a
before Dave.
secondary camp because we couldn't get to the original camp that I wanted to because there was too much snow, too much ice.
Right, you had that
So I ended up
frost.
setting the camp up a little further away than because the original place I was wanting to go had a pretty good place, not far, like 100, 200 yards from camp that you
Right.
could a good glassing point that you could look pretty good, but so I ended up having to settle, and that wood burning stove saved our man, dude.
Well, you know, you setting up camp for us, you and your friends setting up camp early. That was a blessing to be able to do that. That worked out great. I really appreciated that. And then having that, and then we had plenty of wood, and man, we stoked some fire.
Yeah, that's the
Thank
biggest thing
goodness.
about when you go to sleep is everybody's laying there in your sleeping bag all warm and everything. And I will say, when you stoke that thing, that tent would get like you'd be coming out of that sleeping bag. But it was kind of
Oh yeah.
it's so crazy because if you just touch the tent, it's frozen. It's like frozen. But when that fire would go down at night, because I think it was below zero most of the nights we were there. I think it was below zero.
Yeah, I'm almost sure it was. If not every night, almost every night.
Yeah.
So
I remember we
like
left
you
all
said,
our water out the first night, and all of our water was
had to
all
bring
our
it in,
cases of
right?
water were all frozen, so we had to bring them in. But the cool thing, I mean, I say cool. One of the cooler things was you could just literally set like your case. I think I had a case of Coors Light. All you had to do is set it inside the tent up against the wall,
Right, that was the cooler.
and those mountains would be blue every time you took them out of there. You didn't have to worry about ice. In Texas, you got to go get ice every day.
Speaking of ice, I got to go put ice in my cooler. I'm going on a dove hunt in the morning. Got to go
Where
get
y'all
me.
going?
We're actually going to go up to Sweetwater. It's just west of Abilene. So you met Andy, my neighbor.
Yeah.
We got 25 guys. We got the whole ranch.
Wow.
And so we're going up in the morning, going to hunt Friday through Sunday, doing some bird hunting. So yeah, I got to go get my cooler, get some ice in it, and get ready. Heading out 6 in the morning. So
You ain't you ain't deer hunted this year, have you? I mean, you don't have any plans other than we're going to do this New York trip. We got a trip coming to New York that we're going to go do, which is going to be a cool experience. I think I got a couple more videos to send you. He sent me some videos today.
Oh, good. That's getting me pumped. I got a few perspectives. You know, I'm always shaking the bush, see what I can round up. So I got a couple people that have said, you know, how that can go, but said they would take me. I'm just looking for, get me some meat. But I actually talked to one of our, we got a project where we're using Sunbelt to do a bypass on our sanitary sewer system. And you know me, like you and Dave, everybody we run into, we're deer hunt talking, right? So I met this guy probably about a year ago, and he's from, where is he? He's from the Northeast, way up Northeast, and moved down here with Sunbelt, and he likes to hunt. So every time we get together, we get to talk about hunting. And so I was telling him I signed up, I got my Texas park, I got my regular hunt license, but I bought that annual hunter's permit so I could hunt at Sam Houston and to get a doe tag and get me some meat.
Yeah.
We got to talking about all that, and he said he would like to do that. And he actually gave me his card because he's on a lease in Livingston that he thinks they might have 2 open spots. He won't find out for about 10 days. And so it sounds like the Trinity lease. So I got some things in the shadows, but as far as scheduled hunts, the only thing I got right now is the New York hunt that we're scheduled to go on.
Which, just to kind of let everybody know what's going on. So this is like a guy named Brennan. He owns a lot of farmland in New York. It's Sedona Farms. They do apples, corn. I mean, they raise. So, I mean, I think he's a third or fourth generation farmer. And me and him started talking on Instagram. He started sending me these pictures of these deer, and he just actually, I think the conversation started when I got those new arrows, those Texas dirt naps that I had made by Euler's Archery. I posted that video of those arrows, and he just said, "Man, dude, those are sick." He's like, and I said, "Yeah, I can't wait to put them to work." And he said, "You should come out here." And I was like, he's like, New York, and I was like, there ain't no deer in New York. The whole like Texas, New York thing. Like there ain't no deer in New York. And he started sending me videos, and I was like, damn, those are some big deer. And he's like, come on out. You know how that is. Like you hear that a lot, and like, come on out. And so I kind of wasn't paying it, and he just kept on and on. I was like, so don't tempt me with a good time or something. I was like, I'll be there, and he's like, dude, I'm serious. Come on out. So we kind of started. So we had a couple phone conversations, and, it got more serious. And then, the next thing he's like, dude, if you come in October, the last week, he's like, or the first week of November, he's like, you can bow hunt in October. I think rifle season, I don't remember when it starts. But I think what blew me away was the price too. Like, he said to go down and get a license for a non-resident. You go to Walmart. He said, we'll stop on the way. I'll pick you up at the airport. We'll stop on the way. $175. You can kill 2 bucks, 2 does, and a bear. And I was like, what? And so anyways, like I said, I got a couple videos I need to send you later. He sent me a couple more tonight, and they're,
Send them, and we need that. Where's the wife? She don't like me to say it, but I need that deer porn.
Yeah, I'll send you some more. I'll send you a couple more videos, and he's talking like he wants us to go shoot a bear too, which I don't. I'll send you that picture that has a big bear.
What's he calling? Pop-Tart?
Pop-Tart.
Right.
I don't know if I want to shoot Pop-Tart. He might want to come join me in the tree, but
he's a big one.
He's a big bear, but I'm looking forward to that. And then I'll, just kind of, I'm heading out tomorrow afternoon to go try to get that mule deer in, which I sent you it's been a pretty fun. This is, we keep talking about the progressions of learning, and this year's been probably one of the, out of all the experiences I've had, I mean, it's not even close that this year's probably been one of my top of the charts, because it's so different, and it makes you appreciate it. I think it makes you realize, like, obviously coming from Texas, I don't think we realize how easy it is sometimes, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easy. It's easier because obviously, does feeding them help? Yes, it does help. But I've actually had to tell people, like, most of the time, the bigger bucks, they don't come to those.
You don't get to kill them underneath the feeder.
No, you don't kill them under the feeder. You usually catch them skirting the outside, because there's 3 or 4 does under the feeder, and they're skirting those does. Like, I think what a lot of people underestimate about that whole feeding thing is they're like, oh, they get under the feeder and you shoot them. Yeah, you're 8s and you're normal, but those big deer, they don't get big because they know they go to those feeders. But anyways, so I got my last weekend was my second weekend, and then opening weekend was probably one of the coolest. I actually stalked the deer that Chris shot, which is, probably a 170, 180 inch mule deer, full velvet.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful buck.
We spot him. He's 1,500 yards out. He's down. There's a deep gulch up the mountain, bedding just on the other side of that mountain. Like, you can see him behind a rock up there. And, me and Chris, we get some sticks, and we're drawing to see who gets the first stock. And of course, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of watched him shuffle the sticks around, and I knew which one when I drew. I might have cheated a little bit, but I knew which one was short. So I went straight to that one and pulled it out. And he's like, all right, you're up. So before we went out there, obviously I've never done this. I've never spot and stalked. I say never. I've never done it to this extent. Obviously, we'd get out of our, if it was slow, we'd get out, walk around, and hope to make something happen. But I don't consider that spot and stalk. I consider that hoping you stumble across something and you shoot it.
Right.
So we get him, we see him, he's bedded down. Usually when they bed down, you've got 2 or 3 hours before they're going to get back up for the most part. So I look at Chris and I'm like, all right, we got to figure out some hand signals because I'm going to be over there. You're going to be over here watching through the spot and scope. I said, so I'm going to drop down in that ravine and I'm going to climb up. And on the other side, there was a rock face at the middle section of the hill. I said, I'm going to turn around and look back at that. And now when I get to the peak, I'm going to turn around and look back again. I'm going to look back at my binoculars. I was like, if he's still bedded down, just stick your arms out, make a T. I said, if he gets up, give me a safety, hold your hands up over your head. So I drop my backpack, take everything off I don't need. I just got my bino case, my bow, and I take off down this ravine. Of course, going down, it's, I'm flying going down, and then I get to the bottom, start heading up. And, I've been here 2 years, but altitude still kicks my butt, and I get to that rock face and I'm huffing and puffing pretty good. And I turn around, put my binos up, look at Chris, he stands up, gives me the T. It's like, oh yeah, he's still there, so I think the more that I climb, every time I seen that T, the heart rate just slowly would go up a little bit, because you're one step closer to, so now you're not 1,500 yards, you're 800 yards, and then I get to the peak, I peak the top, and by then I'm sucking wind, because it was a pretty good climb. I get up there,
right,
look back, I get the T again, and now I'm like, it's starting to build. And I told him then there was a pretty big tree that had fallen across the top of the deal, and I said, that's the last place I'm going to look back, because I'm estimating, obviously through a spot and scope, that's probably 150, 200 yards from the deer. So I get to the tree, and I sit on the tree. I sit down for a minute because I want to kind of gather myself, let myself calm down. I look back, and as I'm starting to calm down, I look back, and it's just like it goes right back up, So I sit there and I start pulling my boots off. I want to take my boots off because I knew by then, this is high desert. We've been getting a lot of rain, but everything's cracky and rocky and makes a lot of noise. So I pull my boots off, I get calmed down, and I start heading in. And now I know, because I had there was a rock formation probably about 8 foot tall, and I was going to go to that rock formation, and then I should have had pretty much a straight up bedded shot on him. So I start heading to that rock formation, and now I know I'm probably 50, 60 yards. I know he's just
you're within range.
And there's this group of pine trees, probably about 3 or 4 pine trees, because where I'm going across, it's kind of slanted like this. So I came to a peak, and then there's another rolling peak, and I'm kind of skirting the edge of that. I don't want to go all the way on the top. I was trying to go down the edge of it. Well, there was 3 pine trees that were right in a group, and there was a little ditch, a little washout that came down them. Well, they must have dropped 1 billion pine cones out of those trees, because it made like that whole ditch was just full of pine cones. And I know I'm probably 50 yards, so I don't want to walk through these pine cones barefooted, and it's going to make a bunch of noise. So that pushes me up the hill further. So I was like, I got to go around them, so I go up and around the pine trees. And now knowing, obviously, now I know I should have came on down to the rocks like I was going to do. But I was like, all right, I'm just going to push on over. He's got to be right here somewhere. I don't know exactly where. I'm just guessing. And I ease up there, and I ease up over the top, and he's 25 yards. He's laying there licking, doesn't even know I'm there. And I'm like, and I'm looking at his ass. Like I'm looking straight at his ass, head's up there, no shot. And I'm like, shit, I'm already in here now. So my brain's going, what do you do? So
What do I do?
all right, I'm just going to back out. I'm going to see if I can back out. And he's looking like this and he's licking his leg. And I just start doing this, like trying to lower my head down to get below that peak. And as soon as I did that, boy, he snapped his head around and seen me and was like a fucking rocket. Boom. He was gone out there. So I blew that one. But I will say
Awesome experience though, right?
that's
Awesome.
probably one of the coolest experiences I've had, to actually find them and then know now, now I've gained, there's another tool in the toolbox. I know I can I know I can get in there. It's just, bow hunting, there's so many variables. Like not only do you got to get there, you got to fully draw your bow back without him seeing any of that movement too. So, I mean, I think that's why, I think bow hunting's kind of like golf. I think either you love it or you don't want nothing to do with it.
Right. Right. No, awesome experience. I'm glad you got to have it too, man. And so, like you said, that one step closer to the next time.
Yeah. Well, we need to try to next year put together I'm working on trying to see if we can get, Chris mentioned that he might be able to get some landowner tags from this lady.
Yeah.
And it would make sense because I think for you guys, for a non-resident, I think y'all paid what, $700 or $800 for a tag last year.
Well, it wasn't that much for the mule deer tag, but
By the time you bought your license and everything.
Yeah, over 500 and something, I think.
Okay.
For the mule deer tag
Well,
license.
Chris we'll see. He said he probably can there's a lady that can get landowner tags and you can hunt that area with them. He said she sells them for $750. But with the rifle, we would have been done the first day. Like it would have been way easier. It's that getting within 100 yards is pretty easy. I mean, it's not that hard. And, again, I think that's why I love bow hunting so much. Like, don't get me wrong. I think some people too don't understand, like, we're not really out there because we want to kill something. Like, we want to put something in the freezer. That's where it starts. And it's all the other stuff that comes up to the point of kill. Like, the killing them part is probably the least favorite part of the whole process. But it's like, if you want to go to the store and buy a steak, it's really not, I mean, you're kind of disassociating yourself with the actual killing part. Like, you're doing the same thing, you're just doing it in a different way. You're going to the grocery store and you're buying your steak. We're actually taking the life that we're going to eat, which sometimes can be more meaningful or harder. I mean, I've had experiences where I've, made bad shots, and I mean, you don't sleep at night. You think about it for like, it's that confidence thing. Like you're saying, it starts rattling that confidence thing, and you kind of carry those bad shots with you.
Oh yeah. Nobody lets you forget those, do they?
No, you don't you won't.
You don't.
Yeah.
Right. You don't let yourself forget them.
Usually when you're in the stand and, a nice deer the first thing that usually pops in your mind when you're going through that process is like, don't do what you did last time, dummy. Like,
don't mess this one up.
Yeah. Yeah. But, man, I'm not going to keep you too long. I know you got to get up early and go shoot some doves.
Yeah, I need to let Drew know that he's riding with me. He texted me. He said, what time are we leaving? Because I told him we would firm that up tonight.
But man, I can't thank you enough for, you're obviously, this is the first one of these. We're going to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Can't thank you enough for getting on here, and you and Anna need to get down here. Huh?
We are. I said, I'm glad you asked, and you and I got a lot of experiences together that, we can go on for days, and then there'll be many more to come. Yeah. We're going to keep building those.
Well, I talked to Dave too before this. Dave called me right before this, and he's like, what are you doing? And I thought I'm getting ready to do a podcast. See, a podcast. what the hell are y'all gonna talk about? I was like, what do you mean, what are we gonna talk about? I was like, we're gonna talk just like we normally talk. It's like, he's like, do you got an agenda? And I was like, well, no, I don't want an agenda. I want it to be, and I told him, I was like, you get ready because you're gonna be on there. He's like, y'all better not mention my name on there. I said, I said, you're next.
Oh, gotta love some Dave. Yeah, definitely needs to be next. Then we'll do one together, maybe all three of us at some point.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And then I'll
Consider
try to
one.
I put a post out about this today. I'm gonna probably, once we get done, I'll upload it onto Podbean. I'm gonna try to get it on Podbean, Spotify, YouTube. So just let everybody know if they wanna listen to some dummies talk
Yeah,
about nothing.
I'll definitely share it. Yeah, send it. Let me know where it's at, and I'll see if I can get some people to hop on and check it out.
I'll send you some information about where it gets on once I get it loaded up. I'm actually got Luke's going to help me with that. The neighbor down the street that does the GU podcast.
Cool.
He kind of suggested too that he's like, do it, dude, just do it. He's like, I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? Nobody listen to it. I was like, he's like,
right.
Yeah, people listen to it. Like people want to hear real conversations, real people. Like you go to work every day. I go to work every day. Like we're no different than anybody that's going to listen to this.
Right.
If we, or at least we don't consider ourselves that way. Like some people may put us in different pedestals, but I definitely am not.
We're regular old guys.
As normal as it gets. But again, CJ, I appreciate you getting on here.
Yeah, man.
And just
hey, send me those videos.
Send me some pictures. I'll send you these videos. Send me some pictures of them dove.
Okay, I'll do it. We'll do it.
Send me some dove breasts. Actually, when send me a couple dozen of them in the mail.
I'll have them here when you come to visit.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
All right, later, Wendell.
Later.